Hello, everyone, and welcome to our District Administration Web Seminar here today, which is entitled Maximizing Data Impact, How Two Districts Are Expanding Data Culture for Administration, Staff, and Teachers. Now, this is brought to you by the generous support of our sponsors that we have here today, Decision Ed. Now, before we get started, I would just like to share just a few housekeeping items very quickly. If at any time you need any technical support today, please use the chat panel, which you can find. It's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, the bubble icon. Then select on my name, which is Stephen Blackburn, or host, and then just type in your message, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. I'm also about to submit a phone number and access code in that same chat that you can dial in if you want to listen in privately, or if you don't have any speakers. So look out for that. We will also be hosting a Q&A session, and that will be happening at the end of the presentation. You can submit a question at any time during the webinar by using our Q&A panel. And that is like the chat, it's located bottom right-hand side of the screen. And then just send your questions to all panelists, and I'll make sure that we ask it for you. If you don't see the chat or the Q&A panels, just look again, bottom right-hand side of your screen. Then just click on the expand triangle. Also, the last point I'd like to make is that if you would like to access the webinar at a later time, you'll be pleased to know that everyone who is registered and all of you who are here today attending will receive an email with a link to the slides as well as an archive recording. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the speakers that we have with us today. We have Nicole A. Fisher, who is the Director of Assessment and Accountability at Martin County School District, and that's in Florida. We also have with us Erica Simmons, who is Executive Director of Assessment and Evaluation at Round Rock ISD, and that's in Texas. And we have Mark Mason, who is CTO at Decision Ed, who will also be moderating today's event. Hi, Mark, Nicole, and Erica. Great to have you with us here today. We really are excited about it. All right, you may begin. Thank you.
So thank you, Stephen. I want to welcome everyone and just say thank you for investing a few minutes with us today in this journey. And as we explore two different school districts and the journey that they've been on in terms of data. Just real quick on our agenda, there's four main pieces, or three pieces after we move past introductions. We're going to spend the majority of the time today on interviewing and talking to our two panelists, Erica Simmons and Nicole Fisher. They both work in the research, accountability, assessment area. They're very heavily engaged with data. And our focus today is really hearing from the two of them about their experiences and lessons learned. We'll have a short interlude that will talk a little bit, 5 minutes or less, about Decision Ed, just an introduction to Decision Ed if you're not familiar with it. And then the second most substantial portion will be your questions. And you know, this layout is on purpose. We really want to facilitate, foster that conversation between different school districts, experiences with data, and what those lessons are and how those lessons apply. And my name is Mark Mason. I'm the minor person on this webcast. I'm just here to ask some questions and you know, kind of guide Erica and Nicole as we go through this discussion. They're the important people here, and that's where our focus is going to be for the next few minutes. So let's get started. And I'm going to start, Nicole. I'm going to start with you. And you know, we can all see some basic information about Martin County School District, located on the east coast of Florida. Not a huge school district, but not a small school district. Can you fill in some more insight into your school district and some of the challenges that you face there?
Of course. Thank you, Mark. So as you can see on the map there, Martin County is on the southeastern, kind of east central coast of Florida. We are about 18,000 students. We have a very rural interior portion of our county and a suburban coast to our county. So we have kind of two different feels to our county and very diverse student body. Over 150 languages spoken in our district, including a number of indigenous languages to Guatemala, which does make us rather unique. And we pride ourselves in offering rigorous academic programs and the ability to earn an academically rigorous diploma at each of our three high schools. So one high school offers an AP Capstone diploma, the other an ACE diploma, and the third an IB diploma. So regardless of student transportation, everybody has the opportunity to earn a rigorous diploma. And we are very proud of our students. We do use data to drive our instruction and our operational decision making, and Decision Ed has helped us do that.
Thank you, Nicole. Erica, let's turn to you for a second and learn a little bit more about Round Rock ISD. I mean, the simple part is you're located right outside the music capital of Texas, Austin, Texas. You're a suburb of Austin, Texas, yet you're a good sized district at roughly 50,000 students. Can you share some insights about Round Rock?
Yes, and not only are we right outside the capital there, they just had ACL. So my son was like missing for the weekend. We are located right outside Austin, Texas. And the way that the state of Texas work is that our state is cut into regions. And within those regions, we have independent school districts. So Round Rock ISD is part of Region 13. We're in the top 5 as far as size when it comes up to our region. There's about 50 plus campuses that's in this region. We too have quite a few languages, not 150 by no means, but wow, which was a lot, but we do have quite a few. I do want to focus more on the structure of our district. So we are vertically team aligned, which is based on our 5 comprehensive high schools. So essentially what we do is that we have 5 area superintendents, and the vertical learning teams are structured in a way that the elementary and middle schools that feed into that high school is the vertical team that our area superintendent supervises. We went through a restructuring process last year where my department, which is assessment and program evaluation, which does the accountability like Mark stated. Also, we have a data department, which that department is the department that really oversees our decision ed data. We all came under the umbrella of our teaching and learning department. So what that has done for us is it's really just created a richer connection between the data and then our instructional teams that go out and they do the work. So as far as challenges, I think that our challenges are about like everyone else's right now with the teacher shortage, with, coming out of the pandemic. Those are our biggest things. So we're just trying to, find our new footing in a new platform, new horizon.
Thank you. I feel like that helps us all understand a little bit from the perspective that you're speaking from. Let me ask you to go a little bit deeper discussion on the data and what I'm wondering is, can you share some thoughts around in the time that you've been working with data, which is a little while, how have you seen the use of data change over the past few years? How have you seen it evolve?
So you're right. I've been working with the data quite a few years, from the classroom instructional coach until my position as coordinator and on up to this position. So I will say that before I kind of split my life into 2 different parts. The before decision ed, which was a struggle because we used Excel, we used their dashboarding feature, which is awesome. It's beautiful. You have a lot of functionality in there. But the drawback with that is that it was static, right? It took a lot of time by the time we got our data and we got everything set up in those dashboards for our campuses. The data was no longer valid, right? Because all of that is by hand. You had to bring other data into it, and you had to be careful. There was a room for human error when you're doing VLOOKUPs and everything. And when the students, when they were creating that report, there was just no way to move them to the campus once they moved, right? Like a kid can, by the time you created the report, 5 kids could have unenrolled in one campus and be enrolled at 5 different campuses, but there was just no way because of the time consumption to go back and recreate those reports. So they were pretty static, like I stated before. Then when we went into my life as I know it now, which is a happy place when it comes to data, Decision Ed, we started out with the Decision Ed workspaces, where we were able to create not dynamic at this time, but we were able to create what they call widgets in the workspace feature, where there are visualizations that we were able to build reports and then pull those visualizations over onto our workspace page. They had filters so you can look at it through various lenses, different groups, demographics, grade level, campuses when we're at the district level. And then we had a rich reporting for our district. Our district is very engaged in data. And so we had, if we had one report marked, I bet you we had 50. So we just had a ton of reports. And then in 2020 school year is when we were making the transition into the dashboarding feature, but we all know what happened in 2020, right? COVID came along, it kind of delayed the process. But the reason that I love the dashboarding portion is that you build the dashboard right there on the page. You don't have to write a report, which is a lot of logic and everything, and then pull it onto the workspace. You can build that in 5 minutes. You can have a visualization that's built. And the visualization itself is the filter. So if I have 3 or 4 visualizations on there where I have the students who enrolled in advanced academics, you got your IB courses or your dual credit courses, and then I have another one that has discipline. If I click on just that title in that IB courses, it'll filter everything else on that page just by that group of students. So the data is richer, it's more dynamic. You can answer questions as you have them, as opposed to, oh, I have this new question and I have to go out and write a new report, collect new data. With the dashboarding feature, you can just answer those questions as you come across them.
Great, thank you. That really helps with understanding how that evolution has occurred. Nicole, let me turn to you for a minute. Could you give us a little bit of history of data within Martin County and kind of what has the role been, the history of using data, and how you've evolved to today and how you're using data?
Sure. So I've been here about 6 years, and when I started, data was in a lot of different systems, and people didn't really know how to unify the data. Unless you are very Excel proficient and can do a VLOOKUP, they were looking at different spreadsheets and trying to manipulate things to make the data more unified. And so we have a different SIS than ERP, which poses some additional difficulties having 2 different systems. And so that just compounded things. We struggled a little bit in our SIS with reports and needed programming staff to be coding a lot of things, and people didn't have a lot of time to wait for things. And so we started to build our own data warehouse and visualize on Power BI, and soon realized that we didn't have the internal capacity to maintain our own data warehouse. That was very clear to us. We struggled with adding any data into the data warehouse, and when COVID happened and we needed to start adding we were starting to capture different data in our SIS that we needed to be able to report on. We were struggling trying to get it in the data warehouse. And so the Power BI part was kind of the fun part, but the maintenance of the data warehouse was something we couldn't sustain, and we knew that. So we actively looked for a solution that would help us with the data warehouse maintenance, would provide us the reports and the dashboards that we needed, but still allow us to customize, because we had things that we knew that we needed to keep providing to our people in the exact way that they were accustomed to it. So that was really important. And so when we went looking for a solution, we kind of had check boxes that were non-negotiables for us. And so for us, we also needed to have operations data with student data. We knew that it was important for us to be able to see things like teacher absences, to be able to look at student achievement in the context of the operations data. And with our 2 systems, we just were not even close to that. Our data warehouse had never been built out to hold the operations data, and it needed to. And so our goal was to unify, and our history kind of was a lack of unification, unfortunately.
Great. So what is the focus area today within Martin County as far as the data footprint? And what is the feedback that you're getting from your stakeholder community?
So we have rolled out DecisionNet is being used by all district level administrators and school administrators, and then the people in our school sites that kind of have access to everybody. So coaches, counselors, those types of people. And the feedback is they're amazed at how much is available. So we kind of have this problem of here's 20 reports that are going to show you what you need. And so we're trying to not overwhelm, but the data is literally at everyone's fingertips. It never should be that the data is what's taking you a long time to find. You should struggle with making the decisions based on the data, right? The analysis is what should take you, and the next steps, the action steps that you're going to take based on the data, not locating the data. And so I knew that there was a source of frustration in finding the data, and the exercise was never find the data. The exercise should be look at the data, analyze the data, and then what steps are you going to take? So we are still just starting our first full year here with everybody using it. It's being pulled up in meetings, it's being, used at our principal directors meetings, and it's been a breath of fresh air for us to not have to, our answer is now, let's see where in DecisionNet we can find this instead of let's figure out how we're going to make this for you.
Fantastic. And you've been using this platform, DecisionNet, for you've been about a year in production. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, I think.
And Erica, pardon, go ahead. And Erica, about how long have you been using DecisionNet?
I think we're like in year 6 or 7, 5, 6 or 7 there. COVID years just like wipes things out, right? But I think we're there. Yes, at least year 5 for us.
Okay, great. So Erica, let me follow up with a question for you. As you put more and more data out in front of your stakeholders, is all data equal in terms of impact? And in terms of, do you find certain groups of stakeholders are more interested in this type of data and other groups of stakeholders are more interested in a different area of data? Is it consistent? I mean, or does one dashboard fit everyone? I guess would be my question.
Yeah, absolutely not. One dashboard does not fit everyone. We have different dashboards. We have a dashboard that we created for instructional purposes. We have a dashboard that we built for campus overview, which is enrollment, things like that. That's just separate things that you need to know about. We have dashboards that's built for departments. We have our equity department that has their equity dashboard because they look at their data through a completely different lens. A discipline dashboard where we're, the person who's engaged in it really is just focused on the discipline data. So absolutely, there is no, we could build it out in one. You just have a bunch of tabs, right? But you have groups of people who wouldn't even use certain tabs. Even when we had our workspaces, we actually had a workspace by school type. We had an elementary, we had a middle, we had a high, because the data it's just so different at those places, and you wouldn't want people to have those tabs that didn't relate to them. It just made it, if everything that you show them relates to them, that you're going to get them to engage in it a little bit more.
Right. So Nicole, do you have any examples of kind of what's been accomplished with more data, or what the impact of more data has been?
I think it's just been better for kids, right? That's what the goal of all of our jobs is, do better for kids. And so being able to have quicker access to clear data, clearly presented data, and easy to understand data has let our instructional staff and our operational staff make decisions quicker, with more data behind their decision, and then able to act faster. So, we have new assessments in Florida this year. We moved to away from a state summative to a 3 times a year progress monitoring model. and just came very quick into assessment season, like second week of school, K to 10, VP K to 10 was assessing in ELA and math. And we haven't had that before. That's not been a history here. And so right away, we were able to start getting our data and sending it back through into the data warehouse to be able to be visualized in the reports that it could already be visualized in. So that was pretty amazing, I think, for some of our school site folks and our district people to see that, oh my goodness, the kids just took these assessments and the results are available the same day, which is also something we're not used to here. So to be able to put those right into Decision Ed and see them and be able to look at trends and make decisions and look at it next to last year's data points is just really beneficial.
Fantastic. So you have any comments or experiences on that, Erica, that you'd like to expand on?
You said Nicole's name, so I don't even know if I paid attention to the question, Mark, but I really liked her answer because our state's thinking about going to that 3-to-1 ratio. I don't know for us if it's about putting so much or a lot of data in front of people. I think that we're coming to a point. So something that's happened, I told you guys about we were restructured, but a lot of new people, and a lot of new positions for us in the last year, a lot of retirements. And it's allowed us to create a new team at the district level. And some of the things that one of the things that we're focusing on this year is what we call monitor reports, where we basically have three different types. We have a CCMR monitor report, we have our district interim monitor report, and we have our screener monitor report. And the great thing about Decision Ed is that it's so customizable. So we build these reports in Decision Ed, but we email them out to our users. So, we're capturing people who may not take the time to go and look at that data. We're capturing them right there in their emails, right? So the data gets pushed out to them. The report is built to where it has even more resources. Some of those resources link back to like our CCMR dashboard that we have built that just gives them access in a way that they're used to seeing it, right? As we continue to build, because our district kind of took a step back last year when we came back. We went away from our Eduphoria, which is where we do our local assessments, and we went to I won't say the other place where we went to because that's just wrong, but they just weren't as friendly with the data as Eduphoria was, and we really struggled to get the data from that assessment platform into Decision A. You guys were great and you worked with us and everything, but they just didn't give us our data back in a way that was usable. And so we felt like that hit us at the teacher level, especially not being able to continue to produce those reports. So we are gaining ground, getting back to Eduphoria this year and gaining ground to where we were. But not only that, it's streamlining the data. Sometimes giving too much data, is overwhelming. So we streamline it with those reports. We're putting in there instructions, because that's what Decision Ed allows you to do. You're building. You can put your verbiage in there. We built that report. It has the steps for the data analysis in there. As I stated before, it has links to other resources that's right there at the click of a finger. And I was able to be on a vertical meeting yesterday where an area director was just walking her principals right through that. And it was probably one of the better meetings that I've been a part of in a long time around data, because it just focuses people. You don't have to figure all this out by yourself because you're crazy busy. It's just everything's right there, and it's like a pot pie of reports, right? Everything's just thrown in there and baked up to sumptuous goodness. And it was just an amazing experience where people were engaged. The principal were engaged. They weren't complaining about how tired they were, how late in the day it was, because it was after they were really asking great questions, because it was just right there at their fingertips.
So Erica, if I go down that pathway just a little bit more, if you think about the amount of time in the past that stakeholders spent retrieving and organizing, getting their data in one place, versus the amount of time analyzing and actually trying to interpret and strategy and plans, would you say that shifted over the last 10 years? And what would you say that shift means to the school district?
I absolutely think it's shifted. I think part of not everybody is data people. Not everybody loves data the way Nicole and I do, right? Not everybody knows when they're trying to answer this question, this is the data that you need to look at. Just not everybody's built that way. Just like Erica can't change. I mean, I tell my boys I can do anything. Like I can change the brakes on your car. You may not want to drive it, right? So they're experts in certain areas. And so it's not that our campus leadership or our district leadership didn't want to do that. When they tried to do it, it may not have been as focused and they would get frustrated. So I would say that the amount of time for them, they do no time at all with the way that we're doing it right now. We haven't had any complaints or pushback, and we don't take their ability to dig deeper, right? We just focus it for them. So our 3 reports just focus on these 3 pieces of data and the work. And so for those who have the ability to analyze data and put it together, and they understand that, they still have that ability. But we also made an assumption that all 55 of our principals can do that, and that was a wrong assumption. And so now being able to give them something for them to work with, to have a starting point, is just tremendous. And so going back to your original question, lots of principals spent no time because they didn't really know how to do it, right? And you had some principals spending too much time because, again, they had the desire, but they may not have had the deep knowledge to understand what data to bring to the table to have the conversations. And then you had some who knew what they were doing and doing a great job. So I think that we've taken these 2 endpoints, right? Those who didn't do it because they didn't know, and those who may have brought too much because they didn't know, and we've given them a starting point, and then we can build on that, right? So where those principals are this year, that's not where they're going to be next year, because they're starting to see these are the questions they're asking us to answer, and this is the data that they're giving us. So now I can start to, build my capacity for understanding data and data literacy.
Oh, that's wonderful insight. I appreciate that. Nicole, I can't help but ask you the same question, and that is, if you think about how much time years ago was spent on compiling data and just getting the data together and maybe getting everyone's spreadsheet to agree, versus time actually with quality analysis. Could you comment on that evolution and kind of what you've observed?
So it's only been 6 years for me, but I have seen it come run its full course. When we get a state file once a year that is like the base of our school grades file, and there are many. I think it goes to column AUX, right, with 18,000 rows, big file, and not easy to understand or interpret. And it used to take me a few days to pivot out the table to the point where everybody could see their data in it, because there was no other way to see it. Well, now it just goes right in and it updates automatically. It's like a beautiful thing. And so what used to cause me weeks of work and a few training sessions is now, here's the video refresher on how to run this report and use this report. Please take a look at it. So it has allowed my department to move from the chief VLOOKUP upper and pivot table creator to the actual person who gets to talk about data and who gets to actually think about what are the ways we want to look at this data? How should we be looking at this data? Are we really serving every student if our data view looks like this? Or do we need to change it a little bit? What does it look like if we add this to it? What does it look like if we bring in another data point? And that is invaluable. And like I said, that's for our kids. That's whatever is going to help us make the best decisions for kids is what we want. And so this just gives us all of the tools that we need to do that. The customization is something I can't say enough about. Decision Ed comes with a lot of pre-made reports, and some of them work great with our data, and some of them we were like, nah, this isn't really what we want. You just make a few modifications to it, and then it's yours, and it works for you. And that part is great for us. My department is very small and recently underwent a change. A very key person is no longer with my department, and still we've kept things going. And in our old structure, where we were the maintainers, owners, builders of the data warehouse and the Power BI structure, we would not have been able to do that. So there's lots of change in lots of school districts right now, and this has definitely been a way for us to keep continuity of our data. I also, we've started to talk more. It used to be accepted that schools and principals and everyone kind of had their own way of keeping their data and looking at their data. And so having a unified system has allowed us to talk about what is our data protocol? What is our data plan? Like, how are we, do we want to all look at this the same way? Is that what we should be doing? And if so, what does that protocol look like? And so that's been a really important discussion that we've started kind of last year and then continued over the summer and into this school year.
So Nicole, if I'm understanding correctly, you're really talking about that you've really been able to focus on the expansion of analytical capabilities within the organization. In other words, kind of as Erica mentioned a few minutes ago, not every person in the district is at the same level of data analytics. So you're now able to move past some of the heavy lifting and focus on, is that a fair way of saying that?
It is. And all of the support people at the district level who push into schools, like our district coaches or our content coordinators, they're looking at the same data that the school site's looking at in the same fashion. Where it used to be they would come with how they were looking at it, and the school site would pull out some Excel report, and they would spend the meeting trying to reconcile the two. And that's no longer happening, because everyone's just logging into Decision Ed, pulling up the data, and able to have a discussion. We're not talking about the actual pieces of the data. We're talking about what does the data mean and what are we going to do with it.
Yeah. So how have, what techniques have you used to advance Martin County as a data awareness, or the skills of data, or even to how to use a report?
So
I mean,
we've created just some basic training resources on some Decision Ed and some that we created, just mechanics of how to run reports. But then also for each of the reports that we've added kind of to our local area, we have an area for how frequency it's suggested for you to run the report, right? What level the report's geared to, who should be running the report, so that we're trying to give people all the tools that they need if they're not so data savvy. I'm a secondary assistant principal. These are the 10 reports I'm supposed to look at every week, right? And then we have videos on the reports and the dashboards to say, like, here's how it runs, here's what you're looking at. So super savvy principals are shown once and they're gone with it, and they've delegated maybe somebody to run it and they want to be briefed on it. But some newer admin, we have these resources, and we have found that short screencastifys are the best way for us to communicate with our people. So I just turn my screencastify on and walk through the report myself and talk my way through it, 3 or 4 minutes, and we add them right to the Google Drive, and they're in the Decision Ed Training Resources folder. And I get emails sometimes at 2 a.m. Just watched your video 3 times. I get it now. And that's why we did it. So if you didn't get it in a meeting, no worries. You just go back and keep playing it. And so that's been a really good way for us to kind of, when we create a new dashboard or a new report, we just do a little video on it and throw it in the Google Drive.
great. So I want us to keep moving and get to the questions from our audience today. But before we go, Erica, final question. For those school districts that are thinking about enhancing, moving forward in their data journey, what advice would you offer based on your experiences?
With anything, have a plan, right? I think it's important that you have a plan, but before you get to that plan, I think you have to have key people around the table. I know when we first started with Decision Ed, so here's the funny thing, like Decision Ed is our baby now within our department, but it didn't start that way. It started out with our business, our information systems department, and but they just wanted to go straight canned reports and let it be that. But it's too dynamic a system to stick with that, and we had people asking for data in ways that were just not using it to the depth of its ability. So it's now ours. But before then, I would say the project manager did a great job meeting with the different departments. So with assessment, what assessment data is going to go in there, making a plan, how far back are you going to want to go with that data? All of that's was important, and she did that part. And then she met with the key stakeholders. You know, she met with the campus principals, she met with the teachers, she met with district personnel. And so you really want to make sure that when you're building this, that you're understanding what all data that needs to go into there and what people are going to want back from the system. So I would say that we too had a lot of resources, and Nicole, we called our videos data bites, you know, BYTES, and they were a hit, but that was a few years ago when we launched, you know. But start with, you know, you need to get people engaged and captured. So we have been in this system 4 or 5 years, and I did tell you we took a hit when we moved away from Eduphoria, but it's still a process, right? Like, so if I had to go back and do it over again, I would probably, instead of trying to do everything, you know, maybe focus on data that would be more impactful, or the data that would engage the most people around, you know, into it. Have a plan, start small, and then start to grow it. Because if you overwhelm people, they're going to shut down, and they're not going to come. If they have a bad experience with it, it's just like I tell everybody, if I sit in a chair and it breaks with me, next time I see that chair, we're not gonna engage, right? So you do want to make sure that what you start them out with is positive. But one of the big things that really got everybody on board, is kind of Nicole touched on it, was you had all kinds of data in one place. So you can build those reports that brought in all of that data, instead of, oh, I have to go here and look at my discipline data, then I have to go here and look at my attendance data, I have to go and look at my assessment data. Having it all in one place, grades and everything, and being able to show them and build out those reports, that was huge. So even though I tell you to start small, also show them the power of what the system can do. And know that you're not in this alone. I think for me, customer service is the biggest thing when it comes to me supporting and telling anybody else whether or not to try a product. Decision Ed, hands down, has the best customer service I've ever worked with any company forever. And I realize that bragging on them might get more of you guys to use them, which means they might have less time for me, but I'm willing to risk it because it really is a great product, and it really will grow, honestly, start to grow your districts, or when it comes to using data, you know.
Well, Erica, and thank you very much, and I'll pass that on to the staff here. We love our customers. You know, we love our district. So, Nicole, before we go and move on to the next segment, any words of advice for the audience?
I think if you are looking for a solution to unify your data and make the data easier to obtain or all in one place, what was helpful for us was making kind of a checklist of what was our ideal, and then what was kind of a non-negotiable. And so for us, that's how we selected Decision Ed. We went through kind of a process where we had multiple vendors give us presentations, and just the ability to unify all of the data in a data warehouse that we were not maintaining, where we could see kind of real examples in the demonstration, was super important to us. And we're more than happy with our decision. So like Erica, we receive impeccable customer service from Decision Ed. The response times are amazing. This is my maybe second time meeting Erica, and I'm sure she deals with as many platforms as I do, and it's a laundry list of assessment platforms and instructional materials platforms that house some of our assessments, and our customer service that we receive from Decision Ed is not paralleled by any of the others. It does not exist. But my advice would be to focus on what you need. What is your ideal? What is a non-negotiable? And to go from there. We did start small. We rolled out in phases. We started with district admin, kind of my instructional services team up here, that I knew if something wasn't working, they would just yell to me instead of shutting down and never accessing the system again. And then we, once we had all the data in, we said, you know, I think it's not fair to not give this to principals right now. So we gave it to principals and assistant principals, and then more of our district staff, all of our ESE staff, our coaches, and then people at the school sites, counselors, media specialists, coaches. We still have not fully rolled out to all of our teachers yet. We had some early adopter teachers that we used as a kind of a pilot group over the summer. And then with our staff changes, didn't get to roll out to teachers right away, but we will be rolling out to teachers this year. We're a little concerned about the questions. My department's very small, and we will be the first line help desk. So we're a little concerned about that, but we know it's important to get Decision Ed into our teachers' hands, and we're committed to that. We're also working on a public facing dashboard project with Decision Ed now, so that we can get some of our more basic attendance, enrollment, school grades, those kinds of dashboards up and available to the public from our website.
Great, great. Well, Steve, I'm going to turn it back to you to remind everyone about our upcoming questions.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Mark. But actually, before we go to that, can you just take a few minutes or so just to go over Decision Ed for our audience in a little more detail? I know that a few minutes ago, into the webinar, someone was asking like for your website, for example. So yeah, I guess now would be a good time to go over that for us.
Okay. Yes. So I'm going to keep this short. Now, because I really want us to get to the questions. I know there's several questions that are coming in to the panel, and I really want to use this time to the most effective way with Nicole and with Erica. So I'm going to shorten down here to about 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, but I want to start with an invitation. And the invitation is talk to us if you've got questions. We're happy to have conversations, to show you things, to answer your questions. You know, it's a process that you go through. Because we're not spending a lot of time on the product today, don't be mistaken that we're not willing to spend a lot of time on it. We certainly are, but we're so honored to have these 2 guests today, so we want to make sure we maximize that. But just a quick overview, Decision Ed, you've heard this today. Decision Ed really is built on the foundation of data, and this is all the data that is related to the educational process. We don't limit your data sources. We have assessments, and you're going to have assessments that are going to come in from, 15 different assessments, 25 different assessments. We have customers that are using 2 different systems for behavior management. Maybe one system is being used more from a coaching standpoint, another one is used for state reporting. We pull data from both. So at the end of the day, we want all of that data that is electronic to be in your Decision Ed database. And the key piece on this is we extract and load the database. This is not about you having to go in and have programmers and figure out how to get the data out. We have pre-built extractors. We connect to this data and we pull this in. And when we load the data in Decision Ed, the data is connected. So that means if I want to do things like, look at assessment data, maybe look at scores in math on a benchmark assessment or benchmark assessment compared to, whatever the high stakes assessment, and compare the 2. And maybe I want to then limit that to only those students that had at least 165 days of instruction with that teacher. And then maybe I also want to further segment by whether the teacher had a master's degree or a bachelor's degree. Now, you have questions that are specific to your district, but the key piece in that is that ability to link the data together in meaningful fashion and know that we're extracting the data and we're monitoring those extracts every single night. So if something happens and you don't get your data in, we're there to pick that up and move forward with it. We provide flexible access to information. We have industry-leading dashboard capability, reports that are linked to the dashboard. We include an artificial intelligence-based exploration component, which allows you to explore your data using an AI assistant. And we have a tool called storyboards. And storyboards allow you to be able to actually capture that message and share it in a collaborative fashion. And it's not just a PowerPoint, okay? It's really providing the information and allowing the recipient to go through their own discovery process. We focus very much on use the best tool that fits the request, whether that be a dashboard or a report. We're very focused around the concept that not everyone is equal across the district. I think Erica had made this point a few minutes ago, that not everyone's at the same place when it comes to data and analytics. And, there's going to be some people in your district that they're consumers. They want to consume the information. Maybe they want to receive a report and email, or they just want to look at the dashboard and do simple clicks. And you're going to go all the way up through power users. Decision Ed provides different levels of functionality based on how you want to categorize your community and the users within your community. So the key with this is Decision Ed can grow. And I think it was either Nicole or Erica that made a comment a few minutes ago about how the expectation is next year they're approaching the year with a group of team members that are more astute with data. And the more people use data, the deeper those questions get. And that's what you need to have in your data platform, is that ability to grow and expand. So once again, let us know, decisioned.com, and you can get our link through district administration, but we'd love to talk with you, show you more about our product. And so, Stephen, I want to turn this back over to you. Because a really important thing here is now let's focus on questions that our audience has.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Mark, for sure. Like you said, we've now come to the Q&A portion of our webinar. So you can now submit all the questions that you have in writing so that, Mark, Nicole, and Erica can answer your questions live on the air. If you haven't already, and I do see some coming in right now, you can just send in your questions in writing, and you can do that just by accessing the Q&A panel, which you can find. It's right there. It's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. It's the option next to the chat button. And if you don't see it, there should be 3 dots next to that chat button. Click on that, and that should bring you to the Q&A panel. All right, so for this first question, I know this is kind of going off of what you were saying earlier, Erica, about how you might be able to put brakes in your car, but I wouldn't recommend driving that car after you do that. But this person there is saying, they're finding that the software developers and the people needing the data, can sometimes have a disconnect. And so this person, they're a counselor at their school district, and they feel like they need to go back to school and learn software development, to make the reports that include the complexities that, they require. So with that in mind, like it's hard translating the data needs between all the experts at the table. So like what can this person do to learn more data language to better communicate their needs?
I will tell you that when when Decision Ed came to our district, I had written this many Cognos reports before in my life, language programming, none of that. I had none of that. I had Excel. I knew what I could do with Excel. I could do Excel formulas. And Decision Ed came in and they did 2 different trainings, and then it was just getting in there and using it. And I bet you Toby and we could have probably been on the friends and family plan, but he was very available. And they have another report writer. It's just Toby was the one that I was always talking to. And so I will tell you that unique for us, for like, it sounds like you're having Whitney, it sounds like you're having the issues that our users would have if our MIS department had continued to oversee and do report writing. They're not education people, they're data people. And so I think that the fact that classroom experience, like we have teachers, we have educators that understand the data, that it definitely, and because I love data, so I'm like this hybrid, right? Like I understand data at a deep level, but I also have just this practical side from coming from a classroom, using it, having to be an instructional coach, and then lead data discussions. And because I'm telling you, I sit down when we create our CCMR dashboard, we had 9 indicators, and that says our kids are college, career, military ready. And those 9 indicators had input from 5 different departments, right? And so having that, so I don't, I get what you're saying, and I don't know who your department would roll it out to, but there needs to be this person that can communicate data and can communicate education wise so that you don't have that disconnect. And that disconnect doesn't happen for our campus because of the unique position I was able to be in when I took this position. Honestly, I was excited about Decision Ed because I was going to finally quit having to write reports in Excel. That was supposed to be my role. I would create my reports in Excel, and Decision Ed, which at the time was probably about 5 reports, and 100 reports. And 6 years later, I practically own Decision Ed that comes out of our department. So it's just going to have to be that concerted effort that people need to, that's going to be over the data. They need to have this practical ear and hear the users for what they want, because it is complex trying to just ask an MIS person for a report. They think all data should be in a list. No color coding. They ask for a report, they'll give it to you in a list, and and that's just it. But it is that disconnect, Whitney.
Perfect. That was a great answer. Nicole, I don't know if you want to follow up on that, but it seemed pretty comprehensive.
I'm good. I think Erica's answer was great. I think it's hard to have, there needs to always be a liaison. I've by default tended to be the liaison between our educational technology department, where our programmers are housed, and our curriculum and instruction and admin and teachers, because it is true that it's not always the same language being spoken and the nuances maybe aren't fully understood.
Perfect. Thanks. So another question that came in, this one would be for you, both of you, Erica and Nicole. So this person is wondering, were there any, integration issues that they were that you were experiencing, and how did you, bypass those integration problems, if there were any? But if any do come to mind, please share some of them.
Okay, integration, as far as the different platforms that we work with, can we just get some clarification on that, Scott? Is it?
Oh, sure. We'll wait a few minutes and see if Scott will come up with a follow-up answer. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I'll ask another question that we have here. So this one is for you, Erica. So how has your data system impacted teachers in your district? Do they engage?
Yes, again, I would love to have seen where we would have been at this time, with teachers, for if 2 things hadn't happened: the pandemic and us going away from Eduphoria. Because our other vendor just would not work with it. We would not work with Decision Ed. So if the integration issues across platform, it has to be a 2-way street. But I will tell you, I see Scott's answer, and so I will tell you that what we were able to get into Decision Ed, it was all on us and Decision Ed. They were willing to go outside of the bounds in order to help us get this data we were getting back from our vendor that we used last year in a way that we can get it into Decision Ed. Not every platform talks to Decision Ed. Eduphoria does, and they are a great company that allowed them to actually plug into their system and view it. So that's an overnight load into Decision Ed. For us, we use eSchool, so that system, as far as our SIS, our student information, that's a nightly load, and all of our discipline, our attendance, our grades, all of that, no issue whatsoever for us when it came to integrating and loading that up. We also use AimsWeb Plus and MClass, right? And that's outside of us, but they can't plug into those platforms. But when it came to getting the data in there, they automate that for you. So we have to go and physically pull a file, but we grab it, we drop it, and the next day the data is in there. So I would tell you that honestly, from my standpoint, and just understand that I'm telling you that I didn't integrate from the beginning to where I am now. I told you before that MIS kind of led that, but I had no complaints. I heard nothing from our MIS people when it came to integrating the data that we put into there. We put years worth of our state assessment data, years worth of our district data, and we had changed from what we call them CBAs, curriculum-based assessments, to DCAs, district common assessments, and we were able to load both kind, and never had a problem with any any issue when it came to getting the data into the system. If there was an issue found with the data, you know, a misunderstanding for how it should be loaded, it was corrected quickly. And I know, and I'm not getting paid for this. I mean, I tell people they can cancel anything they want to in Round Rock ISD. If they try to take decision ed from us, it's going to be a battle, because it's not just about what the product does. It really is about customer service and being able to not have these frustrations that you guys are worried about having. They really work with you to get you your data in as quick as possible. They even changed up their data tables for us. Nicole wouldn't be a part of this because she wasn't back when they started, but their data tables and the way that they were loading the data as they expanded just wasn't really conducive for how we were getting all these data files. So they listened to us and they physically went in and restructured how they loaded data into Decision Ed. And so we can have more pieces of the data files that we get. They load the entire data files now, as opposed to having these buckets that they would just have to take every data file and try to find the bucket to put them in, right? And it was insane. Now they just load the entire data file because they listen to feedback about their customers, about the frustrations when it came to, oh, I need this piece of data. Can you load it? And they would find somewhere to do it, but they just restructured their entire data structure, table structure, to be able to handle our needs better.
Perfect. Now, you want to say something, Nicole? Yeah, go
Yeah.
right
So
ahead.
from our experience, we're integrated with our student information system and our ERP without any issues. Certainly, we went through the data validation process and made sure everything looked good. But if something didn't look good, Decision Ed fixed it. Like, we were just there to tell them what didn't look good and why it didn't look right, and then it came back fixed. The same thing happens with our assessments. We're assessment heavy for sure, and especially with new assessments. So we're getting new assessment files. We send the layout. They're giving us a folder for automation because we're sending periodically. Our state, there's no automatic integration with our state platform. It's just not a thing. So we're putting those in the automated folder, and the layout stays the same, and everything just kind of gets automated. The process becomes automated. There's certain vendors that, like this year, we started one of our progress monitoring platforms through the state is Renaissance, and they were like, oh, we already have an agreement. Like, here, just tell them you want us to do this. And the next day, our data started loading overnight. iReady worked the same. And so I see Scott put a question as if there was a list of platforms, and Mark probably has that. But certainly our experience has been that we haven't really brought up a platform that they've never heard of. And they've told us from the beginning that they weren't scared of anything we were going to bring them. And I kind of thought that was a challenge, and I was going to challenge them a little bit. We're still working on, and it's not on Decision Ed's end, it's on our end. Frontline is where we house our professional development, and iObservation is where we house our evaluation data. And those are kind of my next two big chunks on my list. But that delay is on the district's end, and trying to get some of our tech things that we need to be able to get that data to them.
Perfect. Now we're almost at the top of the hour, and I want to be mindful of your time. That said, Mark, I don't know if we want to answer this question now quickly, or if you want to follow up with them afterwards. I'll make sure to connect both of you. But another question that came in, like, is there a list of platforms that Decision Ed typically integrates with? Maybe a certified compatibility list, excuse me. Compatibility, there we go.
I'll keep the answer short, and I'm also available offline after the webinar to go into more exhaustive discussion. However, yes, I mean, there's a list, but the list is pretty good size. We make a commitment when we work with a customer that we will accept those sources they have. We did not have an extractor for Martin County and Nicole. We wrote one, and now it's supported. Okay, so that's how we approach things. Vendors are oftentimes data may be setting for the district inside of another vendor. Some vendors let us go in and directly get it from the database. Other vendors say, nah, you need to use the API, you need to issue calls and get it. That's fine, we'll do that. Other vendors want to push us a file, that's fine. Other vendors won't the district to download and take the data, we will do that. So we'll find whatever mechanism works best for that given district. So that's a short answer, but talk to us about a longer answer if you want more details. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. So yeah, so that is all the time that we have for a live Q&A. And if there were any other questions that we didn't get to, we at DA, we will be sharing those questions with Erica, Mark, and Nicole afterwards, so they can get to your questions afterwards. And actually, as I go through my closing slides in just a few minutes, please feel free, continue submitting your questions if any are coming to mind, and I'll make sure that they're sent over to our presenters so they can be answered at some point in the future. But first off, thank you again to all of you, Mark, Nicole, and Erica, for your time here today. We really appreciate it. And also thank you to Decision Ed. And I'd also like just to take a brief minute to thank you, our audience, for joining us here today. For those of you who enjoyed what you saw, there are many more upcoming web seminars like this one that are provided by us here at District Administration, which is the leader in editorial coverage of news, trends, as well as current issues in K through 12. We have a wide range of readers who subscribe for free to DA, and they stay up to date with us in our print magazine, online, in our newsletters, as well as web seminars like this one we're at currently. Also, if you would like to watch this web seminar again, or for those of you who believe that what you saw here would be helpful to your colleagues, and I'm sure that is the case, you'd be pleased to know that our team at DA, we will be sending you an email at some point soon, hopefully tomorrow. And in that email, there will be an on-demand recording of our webinar here today, as well as a link to some of those opening slides. So with that, on behalf of DA, this is Stephen Blackburn. Thanks, everyone. Take care, be well, and stay safe. Thank you very much.